I wasn't born deaf. I was born a hearing person, but around about the age of 5 or 6, I had germ measles and whooping cough at the same time, along with a lot of other symptoms before that, like mumps, measles, chickenpox. I had the lot. But they say it was the germ measles and whooping cough that damaged my nerves in my ears when I was 6. I started to wear hearing aids when I was 7. My hearing remained roughly the same till I was about 13. It just dropped dramatically. I had tinnitus really bad. Basically, the doctor said back at the time then to keep my fingers crossed that I didn't lose it altogether. When I was 17, I ended up moving to London, living to London by myself. That's when I learned how really deaf I was and how much I did rely on my parents very much. I struggled quite hard with that. I found work extremely hard. I was working as a hairdresser in a salon. Found that all extremely hard. My hearing was deteriorating little by little at a time. Anyway, I went on to have my son, still deaf in my right ear, but the hearing aid in my left ear. But my other instincts took over, and I could hear Cameron sometimes. It was hard, but I missed out on silly little things like suckling of the bottle and in passing wind, silly little things that anybody would take for granted. They're the things that I couldn't hear my son do. And then when Cameron was about 4 weeks old, I ended up going through the process of a Cochlear implant. And I'll never forget that interview, the first one, asking me what did I think of it. I said, I don't want that ugly thing. I really didn't want this big ugly thing in my head. I felt so disappointed that I had to go through this whole process. But after Mr. Pruitt's talking to me and all the team talking to me, they said just take time. I didn't have to have it if I didn't want to. You know, went through the process really slowly. And as time got on, the more I carried on coping with it, I met people that actually been through it themselves and saying their experience that it was good. But my experience was just slightly different from theirs. But having the Cochlear implant is the best thing I ever done. It changed my life completely. It's things that I can hear now. It's like my son was 1 when I had it done, so it was the suckling on the bottle, that swan's hiss, gas on the hob that drove me crazy. I couldn't work out what that was, and the fridge, the noise on the fridge. There were so many things that I hadn't heard for such a long time. The whole process of the assessment things was quite interesting, actually. The actual test was quite scary, but not scary at the same time. Like one of the machines you had to go in was a big round thing. They told me to put things inside my ears. I said, what's the point? I ain't going to hear it. They're saying it was really, really, really loud. I'm thinking, why am I putting me in? I'm deaf. I ain't going to hear it. But it was extremely loud, and the vibrations of it was very loud. But I think I might have heard it, but I'm not sure if I did hear it. But there was other assessments that you had to have, like electrodes on your heads to test your balance and things like that. I think there was about three or four tests that I actually had to have, like to scan on my head to see how my head was in. They weren't too bad. You had to visit and talk about things why you wanted it done. On the actual day of the operation, they keep asking the same questions over and over again, make sure they're doing it in the right ear and things like that. I was quite nervous a few days before, but on the actual day, I just wanted to get in there and get it done. The operation itself, well, I woke up, didn't even realise I had it done, to be honest with you. I just woke up and it was like, Samantha, do you know where you are? I was like, yeah, I'm in hospital. Have I had it done? He was like, yeah. I was like, I feel sick. Like, and I was like, because of nerves, the thought that I had it done, I was actually being a little bit sick. I think it's due to shock that I'd been through the operation and didn't actually feel anything. So you wouldn't even thought that I'd had an operation on my head a big operation on my head at that time. The thing I was mainly worried about, because I'm a hairdresser, I was worried about how much hair they're going to shave off. But no, you couldn't even tell that I had some of my hair shaven off, which I was quite pleased about. And I couldn't wash my hair for a couple of weeks, so that was quite hard. But believe me, it was beautiful. After 2 weeks washing it the first time, you look lovely, the best. But I mean, you can have a banter about it, you can have a joke about it, but I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. I've enjoyed everything that I've been through. It's made me the person that I am today, and I'm a lot stronger as a person I am today. It changed my life, completely changed my life. When I had the first one, it was bizarre. You have to wait 4 weeks to have it switched on. I was just counting down the days, just wanting to be switched on to come. It went quite quickly, to be honest with you. And when it switched on, I didn't know what to expect, but feedback from before was saying that it sounded like Mickey Mousey sort of noise, which was kind of what I was expecting, like imitation of Mickey Mouse in my head, but it was nothing like that. For me, my experience, it sounded like I was inside a pinball machine. It's all you could, it's all you could hear. And you're like, wow, but it was like really loud at first, quite shocking. And then like Stuart was saying to me, could I hear what you said? I could hear what he was saying, but he's asked me, could I hear my dad? I couldn't quite hear my dad at first. I could hear like all the pinballing sounds in the background, but I could very faintly hear him, so I wasn't sure what it was. But they say that when, like, if you dropped a pin on the floor and it falls down, there's so many sounds of it going through. It's like when I walked out of the hospital that day, I could hear a van from a distance. Now, to me, that sounded like a running tap. It didn't sound like a van from a distance. So you have to learn, because I knew what a running tap sounded like. That's what it sounded like to me. It's the only way I could explain what that sound sounded like. And I had like a lot of experience through that of learning like different sounds, like the sounds that I just couldn't work out. Like my dog had tags on her collar. I didn't know what all the tinkling was on the collar. So I had to call someone or get someone to come around and say, look, there's that noise, what's that noise? And be like, that's the dog's collar. I was like, so then you picture it all, and then you like piece the bits together slowly, little by little. But it's not like everything all comes at once. It's like a slow process. Even like now, I've had this like 5 years, I'm still learning more now. It's still like, for example, like bubbling in the bath. Like I thought the tap was running, but it wasn't the tap that was running. It was the bubbles in the bath. I kept looking at the taps, the shower, religiously looking at them. I couldn't work out what it was. And then when I looked down, I saw all the bubbles all popping. So I put my head nearer, and you realise it's the bubbles that are popping. So it's silly little things like that you learn, and it's amazing. And so I had the first implant, then I lost my hearing in the second one. I can remember this day as well. I changed my battery about 6-7 times that day, thinking there was something wrong with the hearing aid. Had been having slight tinnitus that week. Same symptoms again. I said to my boss at the time, I think I've lost my hearing. So I came to the hospital, had tests, and they said yes, that we lost it. But they did warn me that I was out of the category of having the second implant because I had one due to my age. Then I was 29, and they said if I was 17 or younger, it wouldn't have been a problem. I could have had one straight away. This was quite harsh news to hear, considering that I was a young single mum. I was solely relied on my implant in my right ear, but due to the way I slept and everything, it was hard for me to keep it in because it does get knocked out with the pillow because it's like the magnet in it. Sometimes comes up. Sometimes I used to wake up and find that it wasn't in. I'll panic, like the thought of my son calling out for me, and I couldn't be there for him. So it was important that I had to have this because I did still rely on that little bit of hearing that I had left with the hearing aid. So I was scared of the thought that I haven't got a hearing aid anymore. I've got the implant in, but I keep knocking it out sometimes. So I wanted the two. So I had reassurance that both of them were there. So if one didn't knock out, I got security of the other one in there. I did have to appeal 2 or 3 times to get this operation, which I was quite disheartened. It's like I tried to explain in the letter. You know, you get people who've got visual disabilities. Well, mine wasn't visual, and therefore, because I could cope, I could speak, I could walk, I could use my arms, I had to fight to get something that was solely important to me. I went through the same test. The only test that I had different was a balance test, which really did scare me. what you had to do, you had to lie down on a bed, and it was in a dark room, and you had to put these goggles on, and they said to me that they're going to put water, cold water, in my ears, and the room might spin. So I was okay with that. My dad went outside, I was fine with that. And then what they do is they put the goggles on you, and thought, because it was just pitch black dark, and I hadn't nothing in, I couldn't hear, I freaked out. I was like, I can't hear or see anything, you know. I didn't know what to expect, I didn't know what was going to happen when this water went in my ear. I was fine in case the room spins round, and I'm there in the pitch black dark and can't hear. So I kind of like had a little panic attack. So can I have my dad in with me? So they called my dad in. I just wanted someone in there with me that I knew. So I felt safe. So my dad came in with me, and then after that I did fine. You had to put the goggles on, you had to count in twos. And just like they put the water in, that didn't really affect you as such. But they noticed that my eyes weren't flicking about because I've obviously got no balance. So the room didn't spin for me. So they were quite happy with the results. So that was quite a relief that the room didn't spin, because I was quite nervous about that. The actual operation was the same sort of thing. I actually did have the same nurse that I had the first time round. She actually didn't quite remember me, but I remembered her. When waking up from this one, again, felt fine. Didn't really notice that I had it done, but I knew I had it done because of the experience of my first one. Yeah, I went through it again, but when I woke up this time, I just didn't feel quite right. But the nurses there was reassuring, just telling me that, you know, I was just cold, you know, wanting to get me down onto the wall. But as soon as she got me down the wall, all I wanted was my phone. So as soon as I got to my phone, I was fine. I was happy as Larry, no joking about the wall with my family. Again, you wouldn't even think that I had the op. I was able, like the second one, I was actually working. So I had a week off work and I went back to work. So I had it on the Tuesday, so I had that week off, and I went back the following Friday. So I only had about a week and a half off work. And I went back, again, my hair was shaven off. Just a little bit different with the scar this time. It's the same cut in the same place, but I had a little, like, the scar just healed a little bit differently compared to the first one. But then again, it's the same process, 4 weeks for the switch on, have the switch on again. Again, it's the same effect, the pinball-y effect, but I feel like because I had the first one, it wasn't as drastic as what it was the second time round, because that ear compensated the two anyway. So this ear slowly came in time. Again, picking up sounds I never heard before. Like silly little things like the way people laugh, look like never knew my mum really had a laugh, and to hear my mum laugh, it just sounds unusual. Couldn't get used to that. It was loads of things that like listening to the radio. I can now listen to radio, but I could listen to radio with just one as well. But I could get the extra, from the second one. I can listen to music now. I hadn't really listened to music for a long time. I used to always listen to all the old songs that my dad used to listen to before I became deaf, and hearing all the old songs that you knew before and you listen to them now, you hear instruments in the background that you never heard before. And it's quite unusual to listen to something that you thought you knew, but then you still know the words, you know the song, but you've got extra instruments coming in the background. That's quite strange to get used to. But now I can listen to update music. I actually bought my first CD. I never used to buy any music. I never even bothered with music at all. When I used to go to nightclubs, I used to really depend on my friends, and my friends are absolutely lost now, because when we used to go to nightclubs, I'd be standing there, I'd feel the beat, kind of knew what the song was. I'm sitting there and reading their lips and going, come Sam, you know this song. But halfway through the song, I'm like, oh yeah, I know this song. And I'm dancing along with them, and then the song's finished. Now I can listen to the beats, recognise the song, and I'm singing before they can even tell me, and they feel absolutely lost now. I was like, will I send me back? I've gone back to college, which things I would never, ever dreamed of doing. As soon as I got the first implant, that was it. I was off. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to do things. I wanted to do something with my life. I could actually follow a class, but now I'm in a class. I'm doing childcare now, So I'm still doing my hairdressing at the same time, but because I lost my job, I'm finding it hard to get a little salon to work in that I'm comfortable in. But I'm still doing it in my spare time. But so then I've decided to do a change of career, and I'm working towards teacher assistants to work with children with disabilities. Another problem that I had, as well as deafness, was tinnitus. I did suffer quite badly with it. Whenever I was in a quiet room, especially when I used to go to sleep at night, that's when the tinnitus really did start playing me up. It's really loud, it was like buzzing. It was quite tormenting, especially when you're trying to get off to sleep. Since having my cochlear implant, my tinnitus has definitely improved. I don't suffer from it as much anymore. Only occasionally, now and again, I might get some sort of tinnitus, but I think that's due because I'm tired or I'm run down. I've been taking on too much at the time. And that's another thing that I do by myself as well. I actually go to my exercise classes by myself, because I've never done that by myself before. I used to always drag my mum everywhere with me, and now I can actually go and do that by myself with a lot of confidence, knowing that, again, I can hear the music, I can hear the instructor, but I still always stand at the front, so I can still read the instructor of what she's saying. I don't stand at the back, I stand at the front, and you'll never, ever, ever see me doing that before.